All right. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? So, what we are going to be covering is Black History Month, and primarily we're going to be focusing on the idea of um, civil rights history during the 1940s. So, what I want us to first do is to take a look at the pay attention to list. And the most important things for us to really focus on of are these ideas of segregation. So, what is segregation, and how did the Supreme Court case, Plessy versus Ferguson, create this doctrine of separate but equal? Because this is something that happened during the 1890s, and it essentially legalized Jim Crow laws as something that was okay within the United States. These facilities were never equal, but they were always separate. And in a lot of ways, America realized that it needed to change. And so we needed to look at why did America start to change during this time period? Why did America on the federal level begin to desegregate? We need to look at who the first African American MLB player was and why he was so significant. And one of the most important points we need to look at as well is why did the federal government begin to pursue school desegregation? And the two cases we need to look at for that are Sweat v. Painter and Brown v. the Board of Education of Topeka. So, how were these cases responsible for desegregating schools? And finally, we need to look at not only what was happening on the federal level, but also what was happening on the local and grassroots level. So grassroots means that this is a movement that happens among lots of people, that many people come together, work together to create change within society. And one of the ways that this grassroots movement of the civil rights movement really promoted change was through the use of civil disobedience. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. So, what is segregation? Segregation is this idea, essentially, it means to set people apart. It means to discriminate. It means that people do not have access to the exact same things. And this is illegal today. It is illegal now to say a person can't join a club or a person can't join a society or they can't live in a certain neighborhood just because of the color of their skin. But in 1896, the United States legalized segregation with the Supreme Court decision Plessy versus Ferguson because they thought that it was actually legal to separate people as long as the facilities were equal. So this means that in the South, there were separate schools for black students and white students. It means that here we can see in this example that uh, there is this water cooler that says colored, which is offensive now. In case anyone was interested, yeah, you should never call someone colored. People of color is preferred term, or African Americans, or whatever that person specifically is. But as you can see, we're seeing that there are these separate water coolers. On buses, there'll be separate sections for black people and white people. Movie theaters, courthouses, all sorts of places like this would have these separate facilities. And so, yeah, you can watch this on your own as you go through the student learning portion of this. It's just a video about civil rights during the 1950s and what life was like for people going to segregated schools. So also you can go to this link in the breakout rooms and you can contribute your thoughts on what segregation is. So you can think of a couple of examples. We can think of different places on buses as being a form of segregation, but we can also think about the fact that um, there was this issue with African Americans not being allowed to serve on juries. And so if you don't actually have a jury of your peers, then this means that, the law really did favor white people over black people at this time. That black people could essentially get away with murder, while African Americans, if they were accused, would often be found guilty of laws or guilty of a crime that they may or may not have committed. So this is a major problem within society that needed to be addressed. And what we're seeing is that America during the 1940s, the federal government is going to be working towards desegregation. So the United States began a period of desegregation with first 1947 on the local level, in the private sector. um, the Brooklyn Dodgers desegregated baseball by signing Jackie Robinson and promoting him from the minor leagues into the major leagues. He was an incredible baseball player who had served America in World War II. He had actually been arrested because he refused to move from his spot on a bus before he was promoted to the major leagues. But he was the first person to really end segregation and break through the color barrier in the United States in MLB. And so now many other African Americans were able to play, and baseball is the great sport that it is today because we can have people from all over the world play in the majors. In 1948, Harry Truman desegregated the military. Before this, there would be two different types of units. There would be white units and units for people of color. And the reason why they weren't integrated was for a variety of reasons. There were many white people that held these racist opinions that they could not trust African Americans, that African Americans would not be loyal to the United States or would be lazy or would commit friendly fire. I mean, just all of these really racist ideas. So Truman desegregated the military in 48, and we're seeing that the United States is taking strides, it's making momentum towards creating a more equal society. And why was that? I think one of the best answers that I've heard to that question about why civil rights started taking place when it did is primarily based off of Cold War, based off of the fact that the Cold War was this fight over ideology. And the United States wanted to prove that it was better than the Soviet Union. However, that's really difficult to prove when you have a system in the United States, when you have, a system of segregation where people are placed as a second class citizen just because of the color of their skin. So, as you can see here, America did not look great to many nations because of this policy of Jim Crow laws and segregation. So, to really prove that America was a good nation, that it was better than the Soviet Union, they needed to step up and end these policies of segregation. Okay, so you can watch this video as well. I need to upload the link. Um, but the main point I really just need to get home to you guys is the fact that the federal government is working hard through a variety of means to promote integration, to end these policies of segregation. Because we're seeing that now the military is integrated. And then by 1954, schools that were previously segregated are now going to be integrated. That desegregation is going to take place, and it is now illegal to have separate schools because these schools were never equal. So, in the case of Brown versus the Board of Education, Linda Brown was a part of a class action lawsuit, and in her case, there was a white school that was much closer to her home than the black school that was about an hour walk for her. So that was how the Supreme Court decided that school segregation was not equal, is because it was not fair for her to have to walk so far. And in many other instances, black schools received very little funding as opposed to white schools. What's interesting is that Brown versus the Board of Education was not the first case that proved that separate schools weren't equal, because there was a law student at the University of Texas whose last name was Sweat, and he sued the University of Texas because he was admitted to law school, but he was not allowed to attend the white law school. So the University of Texas quickly put together this essentially a ramshackle law school in Houston. So it wasn't even in the same city. Mr. Sweat would need to travel to Houston to go to his law school classes. The amount of faculty he had was inferior to the faculty available in Austin. The law library wasn't the same size. It was significantly smaller. And so these are many examples of the problems that Sweat faced. And in his lawsuit, he was able to successfully overturn this case because he was able to prove that the separate law school was not equal through a variety of means. And despite the Supreme Court's decisions, there were still people in the South that were really opposed and absolutely against the United States desegregating schools. I mean, there would be protests in front of in Little Rock where they were integrating, and the first black students were known as the Little Rock Nine. That's actually where this image comes from as well. This was one of the Little Rock Nine as she's being screamed at by other white people. But Arkansas did not want to integrate, and so they were preventing black people from entering their schools or from entering the integrated public schools. So it got to the point where even the governor of Arkansas, a man named Orville Falvis, was opposed to integration, and got to the point where the president, who was Dwight Eisenhower at the time, needed to call in the National Guard to open up the schools and to protect these students. And so this just shows the federal support toward desegregating schools, that it is upholding the decisions of the Supreme Court, but it is also demonstrating just what these students had to go through. I mean, think about how difficult it is to learn currently, but think about how even more difficult it would be if people were threatening you, if you were constantly being bullied, if you were worried that someone was going to kill you when you walked into school just because of the color of your skin. I mean, these are things that were used to try to intimidate black students, but we're seeing that through their courage and heroism, they withstood this hatred and were able to continue to fight for their rights as well. So finally, the last point I really want to hit home is this idea of civil disobedience. So the federal government is making changes. The federal government is fighting for desegregation, but on the ground, there are many other people that are fighting to enforce change as well. So, for example, Rosa Parks, her story is one of the most famous stories of civil disobedience. I think most of us know who she is, but she was a seamstress who was working in Alabama, and she would ride the bus to and from work, to and from work. And one day, she sat in the whites only section of the bus, and a white customer told her to move to make room for him or her. I can't remember, but she refused to, and got to the point where the bus driver pulled the bus over, threatened her, and the bus driver eventually called a police officer who arrested Rosa Parks. Her example sparked off a bus boycott that lasted for more than a year. So in Montgomery, the bus boycott started in 1955 and didn't end until December 1956. She was arrested December 1955, and this lasted a year. So all African Americans refused to ride the bus. They would set up ride-sharing services. They would pay each other a nickel to ride in someone's car to or from wherever they wanted to go. People would walk to work. They just did all of this to try to underfund the bus system so that they would eventually, that the Montgomery bus service would eventually need to desegregate its system and allow people to ride wherever they wanted to. So this example of peaceful protest, and in Rosa Parks' instance of breaking a law, I mean, she broke the law despite it being an immoral slash racist law. She broke the law peacefully as a way of protesting a broken system. So she was able to successfully break this law and to help start a movement that eventually led to positive change, that eventually led to integrated buses in the South. And we'll pick up the story later on when we're looking more at the civil rights movement and what Martin Luther King Jr. did and how he supported this movement and how he used examples of civil disobedience as well. But the main point I want you guys to take away is that it wasn't just the federal government that was working towards desegregation, but it was individuals like Rosa Parks who was also fighting for change in society as well. So thank you for your time. This is just to give you an overview of the lecture if you weren't able to make it, and please let me know if you have any questions. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.